Task Force MKE. We did a press conference, I believe, yesterday about what happened on 40th. In the past few days, we have seen the chief and the department claim that everything was just rumors. There was nothing to this. Really, essentially turning this into a big criminal thing against the people who came, really to get answers for inaction on their part. We will continue to prove those narratives wrong. There are multiple parents who are coming forward. There are multiple victims who are going to come forward. And we have one family member who is prepared to speak today on behalf of her child and her experience and her family with connection to that address on 40th Street. So,
afternoon. I would like to start by saying I am grateful for the people who did actually get out and look for my daughter. Had we not put it on Facebook and got her face out there, the Milwaukee Police Department had rolled past my missing child over 10 times since she had been missing. One officer stopped and spoke to my child from District 5 where I reported her missing. Same clothes on, same hairdo, same everything. So like I said, I would like to thank everybody that actually took time out to look for these girls and actually got out and found them, because had it not been for Facebook and people putting in real footwork, they probably would still be missing. My daughter says she walked a lot of places. She's saying that she was in this house, she's saying she wasn't in this house. She's saying she laid down, she woke up, now she's saying she was never at this address. So to be honest with you, I don't know what is going on with this address, but what I do know is there are a lot of children and a lot of parents affiliated with missing children at this same address. This address was not just pulled up out of the air. I was led to this address from following leads for looking for my missing child. And at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to me is that my daughter is back home. Because like I said, the Milwaukee Police Department rolled past my child and spoke to my child over 10 times the 3 days she was missing, made contact with my 13-year-old daughter, and left her on the streets. While I was out here in this area looking for my missing daughter, I saw kids walking the streets, 12 and 13 years old, at 3 o'clock in the morning in the rain. And nobody pulled over asking these kids, why are they out here in these streets like this? So what am I saying is, if your kids are out here missing, Milwaukee Police Department only going to put them in the computer as missing. And that's it. I don't care where she was found. I'm just glad she was found. And I'm going to leave it at that. But Milwaukee Police Department did not try to find my daughter, and they did not find my daughter. And that is what I know is true. Yeah, District 5. And like I said, my daughter said the police department walked past her over 10 times, rolled past her, even on bikes. Never once acknowledging, who are you, what is your name, with the same clothes on that I reported my daughter missing in. Excuse me? My name is Celcy Perkins. I've been on the news probably 3 or 4 times this year already. SCLCY, last name Perkins, PERKINS. Never in her life. When she's 13, that's the messed up feeling, not knowing where your children are. Never. I'm still exhausted. And she's been back home 2 days already. I'm still exhausted.
how is she doing?
She's okay. I'm still trying to get bits and pieces out of her. A 13-year-old child does not have business on the streets for 3 days. And to have the police walk past my daughter and not acknowledge her, ask her anything, not one time, I won't care where they found her. But I know Milwaukee Police Department crossed paths with my daughter over 10 times since she was reported missing.
She said the 10 times?
Yeah, even on a bicycle. Thank y'all.
And the reason for continuing to attack this narrative that the chief is putting out, regardless of what he says or who he's trying to blame for what happened on 40th Street, there are parents that are going to come forward. There's information that's coming forward that address had been reported multiple times by multiple different people. There is evidence, and had they have checked the evidence the 2 or 3 times that they were there prior to the house being burned, they would have had the evidence that everybody knew was there, that everybody saw was there. And so they can continue to deny that this has anything to do with sex trafficking, that any wrongdoing was happening at this address. People can say that who live there. They can speak to a child who will say, I wasn't there. They don't even want to talk to the police. let alone tell them the truth. These are things that we are going to continue to bring forward. There's some information that was uncovered last night through another community activist who has had a history with this same house, with these same people, that I had no idea of until last night. And so again, we will continue to bring people forward. People want to come forward. The community is not lying. They didn't talk to any, I had to bring parents to them and make them take the information. Other parents who came up the day that we were there at that house, hours prior to it burning down, multiple parents walked up to us and said, my child is missing, my child was seen at this address. I've spoken to these people, the neighbors have told me they've seen my child at this house. Why are they continuing to deny and cover themselves? And why do they, and the media has to do a better job from, aside from taking what they say is gold, because a lot of times it is not. And I don't know if anybody else would like to speak on the subject or has any insight, but other than that, if anybody doesn't, then we'll take questions.
Ron, you mentioned there's evidence that the police didn't get. What is that evidence?
So there was, stuff in the house, the sleeping quarters, how the house was set up, pallets that were made. Me personally, when I got there, I looked into the vehicles. I didn't even go in the vehicles. I looked into the vehicles, and you can see evidence that young people have been in those vehicles, sleeping, eating. There's piles of junk food. If you open the trash can, showed it on live, pile with wrappers of candy, drink. That's children's stuff. If they would have spoken to the neighbors the same way that we did, they would have known that these things were going on at this address. They didn't talk to anybody.
What makes the distinction between an unfortunate living situation and a trafficking situation?
Well, the thing is, you have adults that are in control of this house. If there's a house where there are just children running around and teenagers running around and there are no adults, that's one thing. But you have adults who are bringing these children around this particular address, who are allowing this stuff to go on, and who have questionable backgrounds and histories themselves. Two individuals in particular, one that we knew of that day, but now another person whose binder we found, that was found in the backyard during the cleaning the next day, have questionable sexual crime histories. That's questionable. Those things matter and those things count. The other young people who we spoke to in the community who say they come to this house, they told us some of the things that have happened at this house. And at some point we will hope that they will come forward or their parents will come forward. I can't tell people's story for them. But what I can say is, again, are these people you see with these shirts on, other community folks, 414 Life, Reggie Moore, Office of Violence Prevention, Tory Lowe, Frank, people come and tell us stuff that they will not tell the police, or that they don't want to tell the police, or they're in fear of telling the police. Because, it's just a difference in how we do things. And most times that information is credible. We have a track record of, resolving situations. And so that's what we're going to continue to do. And regardless of who the chief and the department is trying to frame and put as the fault of this, again, if I was the leader, I would not have told those officers to stand aside while that house got burned up. That shouldn't have never been able to happen in their presence. That's like them stepping aside and letting one person shoot another person and kill them in front of them without stopping it, and then trying to charge the people around for that happening. You were there. You could have stopped them. And they did not. And they have to take some blame for it.
You mentioned that part of the problem, that people aren't comfortable talking to the police and they're not getting the evidence they need to properly investigate this? Or
so when we were there for how many hours we were there before the house was burned?
In general terms, you're saying that people don't feel comfortable bringing stuff to the police sometimes, and I'm just trying to...
I'm saying that day, all those hours before the house burned up, people were telling them there is evidence. Search the house, actually do an investigation, and you will find what we're talking about. And there was no attempt to do that at all. There was no attempt to do it.
They were in that house for a while.
Hours. And everybody saw detectives standing around. Everybody saw nobody really looking or doing anything. And that is a perfect example of why people don't have a trust for that system. And again, I don't know if y'all have been over there the past couple of days, but when we've been out there, people have driven past. Neighbors have come out and said, dude, it's so peaceful over here. It is so, a weight has been lifted off this community because this house is not here anymore. We did not bring people to that house. Myself and Corey, when we decided to come to that address, people were already going there to do what they were going to do. And we prevented that as best as we could for as long as we could. We can't do everything by ourselves. So for somebody to say we are at fault for that or we caused it, that is more than a stretch for me.
Kids in the neighborhood pointed out the house. That's how the focus, adults and kids in the neighborhood, that's how the focus attention got onto the house. But we asked several people, kids over in the park when we went looking for my niece, pointing us to this house, to this address. We knocked on the door, we talked to people inside the house. We were really kicked it off and everything else. A person inside the house said they dropped the girl off. It wasn't just out of spite or nothing. Another young lady who everybody said the girls were with or they seemed with said she dropped the girls off.
So what's disturbing to me is I was the first one actually on the scene. I saw it on Facebook, and I actually came on the scene, and other people were actually there already. And when the person inside the house called the dispatcher and stated, I was standing on the side window, he stayed out his mouth. And I told the police, I said, all you gotta do is get that cab report. You will hear the gentleman inside the house saying that the girls are not here, they was here yesterday. He said out his mouth, he was here yesterday. So they're not here no more. Also hear neighbors saying it was a red van loading up 9 children early in the morning before we got there. That's disturbing as well. On top of that, you got different situations going on. More parents coming forward saying their kids missing as well. Their kids been here. So we as community, went to this other address that was tipped off to us. And a child says, yeah, we just seen these girls at the house. You know, we just seen these girls at the park a couple weeks ago. You know, so the community is the ones that gave us the tip that these children was at this house.
Right, but the people that live there said they've never seen those kids there. The kids said they've never been there. Is there some disconnect?
So if there is something going on at somebody's house, do you really expect them to say something bad is going on in my house?
No.
Or say they were never here. The same thing they told some of these parents. They initially did tell some of these parents, we don't know your child, we've never seen him. But then at other points they told them, yes, your child has been here, and they were here yesterday. Again,
And you gotta think about, they could be threatening these kids if you tell them where you was, you know, when I see you again, I'll kill you. You never know what these type of peoples are doing out here. These are kids.
Same thing with my son,
And for
my grandson or my nephew, and they gonna say that they wasn't there. They lying. I got text messages. I got proof in my phone from several different people. That's what they do. So we was never there for no reason. It all served the purpose. It all served the purpose.
And you also have to, if they feel like that there will be a continuance not to investigate and not to go into this, they don't want the spot that they know they can come to, that they can do these type of things. They don't want that taken away either. So now that house is no longer there. There are other houses that this is happening at. And I'm pretty sure at some
There's a lot
point,
of predators out here.
at some
There's a lot
point,
of sex trafficking.
another address is going to be a focus point.
So I guess the larger issue then is if police aren't getting this information because, as you said, people don't feel comfortable coming forward to the police, how can it get any better if they don't have information, I guess?
I don't know if you didn't hear what the mother said. The mother said that.
I'm talking about what Vaun just said about people don't feel comfortable coming forward to the police.
No, they don't, because at the same time, when we called them and told them about it, they sat up there and laughed. We seen 2 officers sitting in the car laughing like it was funny. Like our kids is out here missing. And y'all out here laughing. What if it was yours? Sometimes I do think it's racism out here. Because if it was a white child, y'all have been on it. You wouldn't have laughed. Y'all have kicked that door down and checked every inch of that. But because the black kids are out here missing, y'all don't take the time to sit up there and look for our children. This is a 13-year-old needs to be at home still playing with Barbie dolls. Not out here. These predators out here giving these kids weed, drugs, all type of stuff. And then for them to be feared kidnapped. Certain kids is being picked up out of their will. Some of these are runaways. Some people's like these parents allow kids up in your house. It's a certain time for you kids to come over to your house. At a certain time, you should be asking that child, why you not at home? Where's your parent? But instead, you let them spend a night and spend a night after so many nights. Like, where does it go wrong with you asking this child where's their parent? And then for us to go to the house and knock on the door, and the first time, oh, I ain't never heard of her, never seen her. But then when the police come, it's, oh, we just dropped them off. Now, how was they not here till y'all just dropped them off? And y'all never went in there to check the first day. Y'all never went in there to check. Y'all went in there and asked questions, and they came back out. Like we telling you, the kids are up in here. We've been sent to this house. Not only that, the time that we stood out there, there was 5 other parents that was looking for their missing boys and missing nephews that nobody can find. Then the next day, when all the chaos started, it was so many parents that came out there then. One woman, child was out there, she said he had been missing since April. Standing right over there, next to her, seen her and took off. Like all the kids that comes to this court right here, they hangs out. Wait till late at night and hangs out here. And goes to one of these houses frequently, and one of these parents let them in. It's multiple. This is just not one. We hit so many houses in one day, but that one something's right on back to that house. And how is that obvious? That it's just not us. It's multiple parents out here that then came to that same address, that been jotted and called in, logged in by the police millions of times. That same address, and nobody's checking into it. And these kids is missing. They trading kids from house to house. They picking them up, taking them from one house to the one house. There's plenty of them out here. That ain't the only one.
I do want to address this real quick. That same day before those houses was caught on fire, those police officers basically boarded that area. Then they went down the street. They came back. To that house and walked right past. Right past. Or whatnot. This stop right there. They could have avoided that. I'm saying, just like when I first got there, the police officer, when they got, he went inside the house, started shooting at us. With me and Mother Freeman almost got hit by a bullet. Came out that house. The police came back on that scene. Usually they had their guns drawn. They had their guns drawn. They knocked on the door like a regular knock. No one got arrested inside that house. And that's very sad. That's very, very sad. And our police and our chief of police is trying to sweep stuff under the rug every day. You have people like me, Vaun, and other people out here that has no problem with going and finding these kids. But the problem is when you have a system that just put these kids in a system and say, oh, missing child, and does nothing about it. Back in the 90s, they used to go out there and look for these children or whatnot. They see kids, they pick them up. Today, on that day, they didn't do that. On the other days, they do that. It's on the rug every time. This was a result that actually happened because of the fact that people in the community are tired of it. There was nothing that we could have done as being organized as activists inside this community to stop that.
Police don't have a report.
They ain't gonna say nothing.
And until they get a report with the community, they're going to be a lot of similar situations because the police fear the black community, but they won't come into the black community to get to know people, to get to know who lives in those neighborhoods. And until they build a rapport, we're always going to have problems.
Well, I guess my point was that if people have information that can help them find missing kids and they don't come forward, that's part of the problem, right? I mean, it's a chicken and egg here, right?
Let me address that then. If these parents, you see multiple people saying we went to the police and gave them the information and they did nothing with it.
Because that's what the police are saying, you know, people won't tell stuff.
Okay, so when they come to us and we either direct those parents, and I did this on the scene, direct those parents to an officer and make sure you get that information and jot this down and put this as part of this. And they're not willing to talk to me. The chief was refusing to talk to me, refusing to talk to Frank. How was that information going? Again, we are seeing in real time, we are hearing retroactively and on the scene of this, where people are actively trying to tell them and give them information and they are just like, I don't know. So that is not on us. Again, we have always come forward. There are people who don't want to deal with the police. But again, if somebody like me, mediates that happening, they will do it. Or if they'll give the information to me, I'll relay it to a parent, they'll do it. Or they'll give the information to me and I'll relay it to law enforcement. But if they are not going to do anything with this information, they're going to have to expect more of that to happen. And we ain't always going to be there to try to de-escalate. I put out several fires before the big fire was out of control. And at the end of the day, you cannot just try to frame and blame everybody who was there and just say all this was just made up and it's all rumors. These are not rumors. These are actual real people who are telling you that they went to police station, that they called, that they did this or did that. These people aren't making this stuff up. And so at the end of the day, the chief is going to have to answer for that. And it's not our fault. It's not our fault. It's not these parents' fault. There are some parents who are not going to get out here and live for their children. Those aren't these parents. So at the end of the day, people can say what they want. They can say it was all made up. They can accept somebody saying, yeah, nothing happens at my house. They can accept the kid saying, well, I never been anywhere and I never did anything. They can accept that and feed it to y'all and y'all can put it out. If that's what y'all want to do. But at the end of the day, people are going to see that and they're going to continue to go out and seek justice on their own. And this is why our homicides are the way they are, because people have no trust and they handle things on their own. It ain't just a burning house. A lot of people are deceased right now because they have no trust in taking these issues to law enforcement. So if we want to talk about spikes in homicides, this is a huge part of it.
And then real briefly, the police had every opportunity to collect all the evidence. I know they were saying that evidence was burnt up. When that person took that underwears to the police officer, they supposed to call forensics back out there. Forensics should never left in the first place. They should have searched those vans and everything as well. Forensics never came back out there at all. So when we saying, oh, they burned all the evidence, no, the police allowed them that stuff to get burnt up. They never came back and actually collected the evidence or checked those vehicles in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Like I know right now, all this what we're talking about right now is not about to go up on the air whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? But my thing is this too. You know what I'm saying? We don't hold the media accountable. If we go ahead and give you the proof that we got, are we gonna actually see you guys share this to the world? No, you're not gonna do it. If we give it to Morales and his people, we're gonna put it out there? No, we're gonna say something different. So who is the community we can trust besides organizers like me and Vaun, Frank Nitty, or any of whoever, Khalil or Tory Lowe? They come to us for help. They can't trust you guys. They can't trust the police department. But when we try to get it out here to you guys only put it out there. A couple days ago, I put 5 seconds of what I had to say on air. And that's ridiculous. Like right now, all this ain't going on air, I know it for a fact.
Hey guys, we got video of cops busting down the door.
I'm talking about trying to cool.
Going in
That's
there.
a lie, because the cops didn't even kick in the damn door.
Going in there.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They did not kick. They did not kick no.
After the cop pulled on the guy.
So let's address these things, because everything, again, we're talking about effects of things and not the causes of things.
Because they lying.
All these hours where people did not burn anything up and they sat and waited for the police to do their job all these hours, okay, that's one thing. And then secondly, once the house was burned and everybody was behind the police lines, I was live, Frank was live, we were there. We were between the people and the police. What initiated that rock throwing was an officer taking his baton and striking a 16 or 15-year-old male in the mouth with it, and that caused the fight, and that's when the pepper spraying and all of that started happening. That's when the rock throwing started. So they cannot just keep these narratives that people are out to get them for no reason. They can't do that. I had an officer, I'm standing in between the officers and the people. I had an officer grab the back of my vest that I was wearing and pull me up to him as if I was a damn shield. Now, if I would have got injured, being the damn mediator trying to help them while they're trying to frame me and blame me, they have no problem letting us de-escalate situations and then trying to come after us afterwards. So again, these narratives they keep putting out, they should have kicked that door in the first time they came in. And then after shots were fired, first from the inside of the house, they should have kicked the door in that time if they were going to kick the door in. Because at the end of the day, again, we're talking about people's reactions versus why people are reacting this way. If somebody is being abused or bullied, you can't always just say, please stop doing it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't always, apparently people are not always going to be the people who say stop doing that to that person. So if that person goes off and kills everybody one day, such as what we saw at Miller, that nobody wants to talk about, then we're looking at the person and what they did instead of why they did it. So at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff, like I said, the people didn't burn that house up. The police department and Morales did for their decision making or their lack of decision making.
And they laughing. They laughing.
So any more questions?
That's what. That's so. I need to go because that's sad. That's sad.
They ain't got you. We got live.
I got my line. Share my line.
We just bust out with our lives. And then watch the news and see how they gonna do.